Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mind Your Mission. Today, we're finishing out our Prioritizing Marriage series, and I'm really excited for this episode. I'm biased, but we're going to have one of my best friends on today. Her name's Lillian Anderson. Lily was my roommate at the academy. Like, when I think of, we like switch roommates every semester, but when I think of my college roommate, like Lily was my college roommate. And I feel like we've been close ever since. Like we were in each other's weddings. And I feel like our love stories with our husbands are very interconnected, which I feel like is super special. And she's in the Coast Guard because we went to school together. And she's actually a helicopter pilot in Oregon, which is super cool. But I'll just give a little backstory on how our stories are connected. Basically, I think it was our junior year. I don't know if we were roommates at the time, but we were friends at the time. And then Matt was roommates with your now husband, Seth. And Seth was getting curious about his faith. So Matt kind of mentored him and led him through his faith and actually eventually baptized him. And during this time, you started becoming friends with them. I think maybe because you were interested in Seth, but I don't know. If the interest came later. And we
Yeah.
were friends at the time. And you were getting curious with your faith too. So we had like talked about that and like, so you had been hanging out with them and we're like, oh, do you want to hang out with us? Because it was COVID. We couldn't leave the academy. So I was like, yeah, I'll like hang out with you guys, get to know you guys. So we started doing a Bible study like every night because we couldn't leave. So I feel like it was a fun thing that we were able to do. So that's how I kind of got to know Seth and my now husband, Matt. And I remember spring break, we actually couldn't leave the academy. We had to stay there for a whole week because of COVID. I think this was 2021. And we hung out like the whole spring break and it was super fun. So we just all started out as friends. And then I feel like I started getting feelings for Matt. And I don't know if Matt had feelings for me. He did, but I don't think he knew it yet. And I remember Seth is the one that was like, you like Liz, don't you? And he was like, no, I don't. But then he realized that he did. So Seth is kind of a reason that we are married now. So Matt and I started dating shortly after that, maybe like a month or two after that, I feel like. And you and Seth remain friends, and we were all friends. And it's always been like a sweet friendship, but it's a friendship that I can just see lasting forever. And I'm super thankful for us to just like raise our families together and everything like that. So I know you guys are going to be forever friends in our lives. So that makes me super happy that we will always have this connection. But is there anything else you wanted to add to the story? I just kind of like touched on a little bit. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to share from your perspective.
Um, I think it was just like you were saying how it all started, but when we look back, it just like all seamlessly, like just like laid into place of like our friendship. Like there wasn't like a pinpoint time. I just remember like we just went over there one night and it was just like that's just how it went. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just like cool that there's you guys were like I had like other friends at the academy, but like you guys are the people that I like did life with, I guess. Like you guys are always there. And I don't know, it's just cool like looking back, like what, 4 years now from graduating and like 5 years from like all meeting and just seeing like wow, like how God like knit us all together and now that we're both like married to the both of like the guys is like so cool. But that was like us like praying through it for so long. But we'll get into that. But I just think it's really cool, like looking back.
And I remember we were first roommates our sophomore year. So ever since we were roommates, I had just started praying for you in your faith because I knew you were kind of interested in it, but you hadn't fully like taken that leap yet. So I just remember praying for you third class year. So I think you were baptized. Was that like first class summer? Is that when you would say you accepted the Lord as your savior? Like around that time?
Mhm.
So it took like maybe around 2 years of praying, maybe a little bit less. So that's just like such an awesome answer to prayer. And it just shows that it doesn't always happen instantaneously, but like staying consistent and like being present in people's lives, like God will use you. And I look back at that time and I'm like, I wasn't even like that faithful to what he was calling me to. Like I definitely could have pursued you more, but the Lord still got your heart. And it's just, that was just a huge answer to prayer. And it's just crazy seeing you walking in that answered prayer like every day. Like you're so strong in your faith and you love the Lord so much. And it's just been beautiful to see like that transformation from my perspective and to have this lifelong friendship because of it. Because I have friends from the academy that I don't really like talk to anymore, but my forever friends are like the friends that I have like a deep faith filled connection with. And so it's just been awesome to see that transformation. You encourage me so much in my faith. So thank you for that. But I wanted to go back to we're going to be talking a lot about marriage and relationships in this podcast, mainly. I wanted to go back to the single season where the Lord sort of prepared your heart for marriage.
I guess my single season, I guess it all started when like I fully understood like that the Lord like desires a relationship with us, and it's not this like religion where you're just like going through the motions. And like Liz was alluding to, like it truly started from seeing Liz and having her as a roommate, just like seeing her read her Bible, and just like you being so like authentically yourself. And I was just like in this academy environment where everything just seemed so chaotic. Like you were just had such like a joy and a light. And I was just like, I want to be like that. Like I don't want to be feeling like I have to like be a certain way to the world. So and it gets exhausting.
Mhm.
So um I'm truly thankful for like being your roommate and for you praying for me and inviting me to all the things. But it wasn't until my junior year where I just had gone through just some family struggles and really had to hit rock bottom to understand and like ask myself like where's my identity and where am I leaning on? And that's just where the Lord truly met me in that time, and I just finally realized where He had been the whole time was alongside me. So um, just from there and being with you and Matt and Seth and just like really just diving into the Word has just helped me transform what just like honoring and having like a solid dating relationship and like what the meaning of dating was for me. Cause to be honest, like I loved rom-com movies, and I think that's the world paints it to look this certain way. So I guess my singleness from like giving my life to the Lord at the beginning, it was still like molded to that of like it needs to look like the rom-com movies, and it's gotta be easy and it's so nice and all these things just like flow. Um so I don't think I didn't have it right at the academy. Like there was people I had like interest in, and I just like was still like confused of like really understanding and like walking it out. Um, but I truly feel like once I left the academy, I had like a couple months there. We graduated in 22. Um, to really be like, what do I want my future husband to look like? Like, what does the Lord say about marriage? And having to, like, truly just, like, deny my flesh and wanting to, like, be married really early on and, like, wanting to have kids and have all these desires, but putting my desires aside and, like, trusting the Lord's timing. So, the singleness season, like, started off, like, rough, and I think it was just, like, ebbs and flows of, like, just understanding and, like, waiting and trusting. Like, the Lord had answered so many prayers just in life before I even really knew Him. So I'm just like, why not trust Him with who He's gonna put me with in marriage and a covenant before Him for the rest of my days aside of heaven. So, it was a struggle, I'm not gonna lie, but it was worth the wait.
When did you start having feelings for Seth, would you say? Like when?
Oh, easily at the academy.
Okay, that's what I
But
thought. And you
yeah,
guys
there
got married this past October, so October 2025. And when did you guys start dating? Jan
January 26th of 25.
Okay, so you had to wait basically. I graduated in 22, so almost like 3 years. I guess
Mhm.
4. It's 4
Yeah.
from when you had feelings for him. And I just remember this season because Matt would talk to Seth and I would talk to you. And I think w- both of us saw the Lord really use these years that you guys had in the single season that you had to really draw you closer to the Lord. Like I feel like both of you really developed your relationships with God during this time. During those like 4 years you guys weren't dating or together or anything. And if you guys had started dating at the academy, I don't think it would have worked out because you guys weren't in a strong place in your own personal relationship with God. Like I think you guys had to use those 4 years to really get right with the Lord and then come together in marriage. So, can you talk about kind of how your relationship with the Lord developed over that time? Like, did it strengthen a lot from when you had graduated to where you are now in your faith?
Um, I'll use what Seth has, like he said this maybe a couple months ago, and at first I, like, took it to heart, and I was like, "Ow, that hurts," but it's, like, it's so true once you realize it. It's like there's people that need Jesus, and there's people that need more of Him. And he was like, "You need more of Jesus." And I was like, "But I have Jesus." But it's like when you truly, like, grasp the relationship that he desires for us, and, like, he wants to know you so well. It's like, I realize every day more and more how much I need him, because without him, I would be such a mess and so sad and shell of a person. So I just think, like, over those last 3 or 4 years where we were both we were still really good friends, like, our whole group chat, we would always talk, but me and Seth would definitely have, like, just one-on-one, like, FaceTime calls and stuff, just, like, checking in on one another. But I just think the Lord was just showing me, are you gonna be dependent on me, and are you gonna keep seeking me, or are you gonna um, just have me a little bit, but still trying to, like, will it on your own to try to make something happen. So it's been good. And I think we look back on it and we see how much we needed the time to just be with the Lord and refine ourselves. Because marriage is between a man and a woman, and we're both so different, but we complement each other so well. And I think
Mhm.
we just, like, struggled in the friendships and the initial like, starting phase, just because I had to learn to accept him for who he was and how God created him, and that sometimes we may just communicate differently, but that doesn't mean one of us is right or wrong. So,
Mhm. And what are some practical things in that season that brought you closer to the Lord? Would that
I
you, like, sort of leaned on?
100% community. Like, I didn't realize how much I needed community until, like, we graduated academy and I went to Pensacola, and you have to, like, go and seek community. And then
Mhm,
the same thing when I moved to Oregon, like, going and seeking community, because we had small, which is our just all of our names in one thing.
mhm,
That's what we call each other. But that was so, like, core and foundational for my walk with the Lord, was just, like, being around people that are like-minded and gonna encourage you, and um, not, like, allow you to sit in your sin, but, like, call you up and call you higher. So when I got down to Pensacola, um, one of the pilots that I flew with, he, like, introduced me to a young adults group, and that was just really helpful to help me to just refine and share with other people and help strengthen each other, just, like, in friendship relationships, I think is really important. And um, also having the solitude time with the Lord. Like, yes, it's good to have community, but that was something I realized in my early walk, as I was relying on, like, Liz and Matt and Seth a lot to think for me, thinking I needed to, like, be around them for me to grow my relationship with the Lord. And, um, I just over time, I realized I need to have the relationship with just the Lord. Like, I
mhm,
can have the relationship with the Lord, I don't need to have it through other people, and I think that was just a misconception I had. Just, like, through, like, being raised, like, Catholic, I
mhm.
feel like sometimes they paint that picture, or that's how I perceived it, like, you need to go through other people, but no, we can go to the Lord, and he hears us, and he speaks to us, and he ministers to our hearts in ways that other people can't. So, it's a balance between community and just having that time with the Lord.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about Jesus dying on the cross for our sins is that we get this sort of direct line to our Father, to God through Jesus. Community is great, like you said, but it all starts in our own personal relationship with the Lord. And because of Jesus dying on the cross, we get that. And I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying. I can relate to it when I was a new Christian. I sort of found God through community. And then I had to kind of learn to kind of have my own relationship with God, not just, like, with other people. Like, it's amazing that that draws us in and that gets us started, but it's so important to continue the relationship past that and have your own time with the Lord, not just in Bible studies, and have your own intimate prayer life with the Lord. So I think that's really important, and you touched on something too that's, like, so core to the military life is just moving around all the time, and it's so important to get plugged in to community wherever you go, and it is so hard moving every few years, and you live in a pretty remote area in Oregon, but I feel like I've always seen the Lord provide community for you, so there is community if you really search for it. And I remember whenever we would chat right after graduation, the biggest prayer that we would talk about was praying for you to have community, and I feel like the Lord really has blessed you with that no matter where you are, and he does take care of his kids and he'll provide when you ask. So if you are lacking community, just remember to ask God and really seek it out, but also prioritize your own personal relationship with the Lord.
One, like, good practical tip that I've done since, like, the academy that's been really cool is honestly, like, journaling. Like, I
Mhm.
like to journal my thoughts, and from there, it kinda just turns into prayer with the Lord. but I have, like, journals from the academy, from the Pensacola, and, like, here, and it's really cool to just go back and reflect and, like, see, like, how the Lord answered prayers, either in ways that we thought we wanted him to and in ways he didn't, and, like, either way, like, it was so much better than I could ever thought or imagine, so I just encourage people, like, I at the beginning, maybe it's hard to start journaling and maybe it's not for everybody, but if you can just try to just jot a little bit of your day down and, just, like, reflect, I think that's something just important, and you can see how the Lord is moving, because sometimes it's hard to see it in the moment,
Mhm.
um, but then you can go back and be like, "Wow, he was doing so much more than I thought or saw initially."
No, that's a good point, and something Matt always gets on me for because he is a big journaler, and I have never been a journaler. Like, I have tried, and I think I run from my emotions or I don't like putting my thoughts into words. So I've never, it's always so hard for me to journal. I'm like, I don't know what to write. But I feel like this podcast is, in a way, is sort of my journal, like prepping episodes and thinking through things deeply and talking about them sort of is my journal. But journaling is something I should do, but I have never been able to get into it. But you're reminding me that I should get into it. But now I have a child and I'm like, when do I have time to write down anything? But I think that's a great point because I know so many people who really do value journaling, and I feel like they always have, like, deep thoughts, and I'm like, I really should prioritize that. I wanted to get into talking about how you guys started dating because I pretty much know this, but also I feel like maybe I'm fuzzy on the details. How did you guys start dating and, like, what led to that moment? So you guys are both working on your relationships with God, and I think what you touched on earlier about how you had to have your own personal relationship with God, I think that's so important going into a dating relationship or marriage. Like you need to have your own relationship apart from the other person. But how did you guys start dating and all that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Um, so it was, like, I would say, like, the fall or winter of 2024. We were still, like, FaceTiming a good bit. We would just, like, call and check on each other, and so we were praying for each other and see how life was going. But I remember just, like, going home at, like, Christmas, and we'd been, like, talking back and forth. Um, but we just been talking a lot more than normal, and I was seeing, like, a Christian, like, counselor at the time just, like, for myself. Like you, I kinda struggle with my feelings, I kinda suppress them or sweep them underneath the rug, and that's why I journal because it helps me get it out. Um, so I was just, like, talking to her about life and where I was at, and I was in Oregon at the time, Seth is in Miami, so there was, like, time difference, and we were just, like, catch up. Um but I just remember I always was talking about Seth, like, I think I just really appreciate and valued our relationship because he's probably the first, like, godly man that I'd, like, seen and, like, walked through life with. Like, you and Matt were dating, so Seth was, like,
The
the
one that you had potential to
yeah.
like
So
marry.
I think it was, like, so drawn to that and, like, him and his character and seeing him walk with the Lord from, like, before knowing Jesus and after and seeing the shift.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess that was my initial, like, "Whoa, Seth, woo." But it wasn't until the beginning of January, I just met with my counselor, and I was just like, Seth is just, like, always on my mind, but I always a couple years before, I told him I had feelings for him, but they weren't reciprocated. So I think I was nervous about sharing how I had feelings again, and I just didn't want myself to, like, allow emotions to develop if he wasn't feeling that same way. So I was getting to that point where I was asking him, "Hey, I just want clarity because I think clarity is kindness." And so I was like, "We were talking way too much." And I was like, "If so, then, like, maybe we need to limit the amount of access we have to one another and how deeper conversations we're getting."
Mhm.
'Cause that's a big thing, like, I don't like, guys and girls, I don't think should have that close of a relationship, unless you're dating, especially, like, once you're married and stuff, but that's a whole other thing. Um, so he was about to go on a trip for work, and he was, like, at the airport, and I was like, "I just need to call him and ask him, I just need to, like, get it off my chest, or it's gonna sit here too long, it fester." So, I just remember calling him, like, the 2nd or 3rd week of January, and I was like, "Hey, like, just hoping you have safe travels and everything, but, like, clarity is kindness, and I'm developing emotions, and I just wanna know where our relationship stands." And at that time, he was like, "Oh, well, I'm about to go on this trip, like, why don't we take a week to just, like, pray and sit with the Lord?" And I was like, "Ah." I respect it, like, I'm so glad that he wants to take it to the Lord, but he
Mhm.
says he already knew the answer, and I was like, "Dang it." But it's also funny because, like, a week before that, he had been asking, like, Matt, your husband, and a couple more of his friends from the academy just to be praying on it because he was like, "I think I should date Lillian or something," but he was asking the guys for just prayers and wisdom on that, and then I called him, like, a week later.
Mm.
So, we did take the week, and that was, like, the longest week of my life, I said. And for him, he's like, "Oh, it was so nice, like, I knew," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
He's
But
like,
when
"I
he
knew
got
that."
back, he had, like, called me, and then he asked if we could date and evaluate and pursue one another.
I feel like I remember kind of being in the middle of this. I was always in the middle of everything because you would talk to me and then Seth would talk to Matt. So I think I knew that Seth had told Matt that he thought he liked you. And I was so caught off guard because I remember I'd been praying for this
That
since
is
Matt and I had been dating. I'd been praying for you two to have a relationship and the timing just wasn't right. But I just remember I always knew you were interested in Seth, but Seth wasn't reciprocating the feelings back. So I remember when he told Matt that he had feelings for you, I was shocked because I thought the day would never come. And I remember I'd stopped praying about it. So, and then it happened. But God knew the timing was right because I think, like I said earlier, I think he changed Seth's heart at the perfect time to where you both were in a place to make a marriage work. So I'm thankful for that. But you mentioned the word evaluate, and I know that was like a big word that came up. You guys were like, we're not dating, we're evaluating or something. So can you explain that concept of evaluation and
well,
like why that word was a key part of your like dating relationship or evaluation?
this kinda goes back to, like, in the singleness season, like, how we prepared was, like, obviously, we saw you and Matt walk through it, and then also, like, reading, obviously, the Word, and then, like, Single, Dating, Engaged, Married by Ben Stewart and Outdated by JP, like, we both read those, and we both read them multiple times, but it just talks about, um, obviously, you gotta shift your mind from how the world talks about dating, and, like, it's not in scripture, and JP, Jonathan Dakota, he's a pastor down in Waco, Texas, and his book Outdated, like, talks about it, and it's evaluating is just, like, um whoever you're dating at that time, like, evaluating them to be a future spouse. Like, you're not going to dating just being like, "Oh, this is just, like, some game or something," but going in with the intention of, like, pursuing marriage, and is this someone that you wanna be in a covenant with and, like, choose, and really just, like, understanding what, like, love is. So, um, the world of dating is, like, how can we make this be, like, let's play married before we even get married? Versus, like, evaluating, we set boundaries and stuff so we could evaluate each other's, like, character and our relationship with the Lord, and not look so much at, like, physical aspects. Like, I think so much the world talks about, like, you need to have this physical attraction first, and it's, like, chemistry, when
Mhm,
it's like, no, let's, like, look at their individual relationship with the Lord, and how do we work together and complement one another, and just not getting wrapped up in physical aspects, I think is a
mhm,
big thing, and we didn't wanna do that. So then through dating, we set boundaries to ensure we weren't allowing that to be priority.
I think you touched on something that's super important, and I think we all read the Single Dating Engaged Married book together at the same time. I don't really remember, but
With
I
the
think we
academy.
read it at the same time because I remember talking about it, but it does bring up that idea of I feel like in today's day and age, we just date to date and date to have a relationship with someone, even if we don't really see it going anywhere, and evaluation is just, like, intentionally dating for marriage, so yeah, you basically touched on that, but I know because you guys were evaluating in your dating, it went by pretty quickly because you guys were able to kinda make that determination because you weren't just dating to date, you were like, "We're dating to marry, let's see if we're a good fit," and I think you guys came to that conclusion pretty quickly, so can you talk about how you knew you wanted to marry Seth and when you guys kind of determined that in your evaluation?
Um, I will say, for me personally, I think it probably took me like a month and a half.
Mhm,
Um, I just we just knew each other really well, so we already knew a lot of um our like past a little. I think we just needed to understand each other's past a little bit more, and like our family dynamics, and in that book Outdated, it lines out a couple things to talk about. Um from, like, family to finances and how many kids you want, um, and, like, your beliefs, so we started, like, just touching through those, like, our first couple weeks of dating, but I just remember, I think it was, like, February, um, I was just, like, sharing, just a lot of stuff from my past that I typically just don't share with, like, anyone, or, like, maybe I didn't share with him yet, and his response was um, just so beautiful in the sense it wasn't, like, condemning and, like, turning away, and I just remember him just being like, "But your sins are forgiven by the Lord, so who am I to, like, hold those against you?" And I was just like, "This is like, why would I wanna marry anyone else when this man is, like, coming before me and I'm sharing all this, like, all this sin from my past, and he's not holding it against me." So then that's when I knew. I was like, "Why would I don't want anyone else, like,
Mhm.
he loves me so well, and, like, he calls me higher, like, when I'm struggling and stuff, or I'm in my flesh, like, he calls me out, so why would I want anything different?" So, for me, it was pretty early on, and I think it was the same for him because I think in, like, March or something, was it March? I started looking at rings, and so, like, I went with a friend, she came to visit, and we went to go look at rings, and he was deployed at this time, he was on a deployment for over 100 days, so, we weren't, like, FaceTiming, like, all the time, but I think he still had access to his phone, kinda like how Matt is right now, and that's when I started writing, like, letters to him every day, so it was it was a different season, but I think the distance and the way that we went about dating, like, created a lot of intentionality, because we weren't physically next to each other all the time, so I think that was a big pro for us, a pro versus the con with the distance in our dating and engagement and all the things so far.
Yeah, I don't think we touched on it, but he lives in Miami, and he did at that time too, and you live in Oregon, which we'll get on that a little bit more later, but yeah, so you guys your whole dating was and engagement and marriage too has been at a distance, and I think it's allowed you guys to have really intentional conversations with each other because you guys knew each other going into this.
Mhm.
So, really, the distance kind of made a way for you guys to have those deep intentional conversations without having the temptation of, like, being physically together. And yeah, so yeah, basically your guys' whole dating, engagement, and marriage has been from a distance, which is crazy. But I'm excited to get more into how that's been going for you in marriage. But it's been something we can kind of, our husbands do similar jobs too. So that's something we can kind of talk about too, because it is kind of a niche experience. So, but thank you for sharing all of that. Can I guess now we can go into engagement. When did you guys I guess you guys had started talking about engagement, I think like March, April, May,
Yeah,
but he was deployed. How long was he deployed for? Was he deployed until July or was it June?
I think it was
Maybe
July. It was,
July.
yeah, March until, wait, no, April to July? 'Cause that was the first time we started dating in January, the first time we saw each other dating was in March,
'Cause you
beginning of
went to
March.
go visit him when he was on deployment or no? This is before that.
It was before that. We went to Pensacola, and then I surprised him when he was on deployment in May, and then we got engaged in July. So we only saw each other in person twice before we got engaged. Like, yes, I knew him, but it was so different going from, like, friends than dating and being
Mhm.
in person.
You guys knew what you wanted. But, can you talk a little bit about how you guys got engaged and how that season was for you? And I also wanted to talk a little bit too about others' perceptions because I feel like you probably got a little bit of judgment from whether it be like family, friends, whatever, for like jumping in to a marriage as they deemed like super quickly. For me, I found it completely normal just because I knew you guys and you guys had known each other forever and I knew it was gonna you guys were gonna have a great marriage. But can you talk a little bit about how you guys got engaged, how that season's been, and, like, the pressure from other people looking in, not understanding why you guys are moving this quickly?
Yeah. I'll just touch a little bit on the engagement first and then the timeline and how that all looked. But so I saw him in May, and then I didn't see him again until July. I had a training close to home, so that was, like, the opportunity for him to come meet my family. So he drove out to meet my family, and then we drove up to go meet his family as well. So we both got time up with our families, and that was important for us to kinda meet each other's families, and he asked my dad, and that's actually a funny story, but, he asked my dad, and I got to meet his family and meet his grandparents, and we actually went to go see Liz, and it was supposed to see Matt, but Matt was deported.
Go
So
figure.
yeah, look at our guys. Seth had proposed to me on the beach, and Liz was there, and Finn was the sheep, and it was really cute. But the big cool thing I thought was really cool is we called Matt afterwards, and he's like, "This is the same day that Liz and Matt had gotten engaged."
Yeah, I had no idea.
And I was like, "This is so cool!" Like such, I don't know. I thought it was like a God wink. I was like, "This is gonna be awesome. This is great." I don't know,
Mhm.
but that was a little bit of our engagement. And then from there, we started looking at dates after that. I was like, we need to figure it out because Seth was about to get deployed again at the end of the year, and we didn't we didn't want to wait because we were waiting. I thought we were gonna wait until engagement to kiss, like so our whole dating didn't kiss. And
Mhm.
then we decided once we got engaged that we were gonna wait till we get married before we kiss. So then I was like,
You're like, "We gotta get this moving."
yeah. I was like, I need a date now. I mean, that was my full intention, but it would be nice to be married and all the things. But yeah, I think it definitely I think maybe my parents were probably a little, like, shocked of how fast things are moving. Like, they knew I started dating Seth, and but then I was, like, asking them, like, "Oh, what about getting married? And, like, what are you guys looking in for a husband for me?" And all these things, and friends, like, and people at work. I was like, "Yeah, I'm dating someone, and now I'm going on leave, and I think I'm gonna get engaged." And they're like, "How sure?" I'm like, "95% sure." And then people are like, "What?" And then I'm like, "Okay." And like 2 months later, 3 months later, I'm like, "Okay, actually, I'm leaving now to go get married." And like, everyone's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." I just think like if you don't, um, like like I don't think you need long timelines for engagement to married. Because if you know you're gonna marry someone, then why are you extending it and just like making that commitment? We should be making it. So definitely, I think my parents were a little, like unsure or
Mhm.
just like curious of like why it was so fast or sped so quickly. And then yeah, friends just like around here, but obviously like my community and stuff was really like supportive and understanding, and they were like, no, that's like awesome that you know and you make those decisions and you go with it instead of floating around for so long. And I'm sure like people from the academy had opinions, but I was off social media and I didn't really want to have those voices in my head because that those aren't people that know me. So I don't need
Mhm.
those people speaking into my life. So
No, that's so important. Like, you don't need to seek advice from other people who aren't of, I guess, the same, like, mindset, if that makes sense. Like, you should have a core group of people that you trust and value their opinions, and you guys are all seeking Christ, and that's who you go to for validation and affirmation. Like, why wait? You're not playing marriage in the dating world. You know what I mean? So, once you know, it's like, why would I wait if I know I wanna marry this person? And once you're married, you can actually start moving forward with things, and so I think that's important that you talked about that, and it is funny that our engagement dates are the same, which is funny that I didn't even know that. Matt is the one who knows the dates in our relationship, but I remember we were gonna do it at the end of the week 'cause Matt was supposed to come back, and then he had gotten extended. Go figure, it always happens. But and so I was like, "Well, let's just do it at the beginning of the trip because then she won't be, like, anxiously waiting for it the whole time, and it would make the trip more enjoyable because you guys would just, like, be able to celebrate your engagement rather than, like, getting engaged and then, like, leaving." So I think it's cool how we ended up engaged on the same day. I wanted to go into how marriage has been for you, which I'm curious to hear this myself, and just how it's been, like, being married, like, at a distance. Like, yeah, I have had periods of distance in my marriage, but at the end of the day, like, we do live under the same roof. So I'm interested to hear how that has gone for you and how you're going getting through that because it's hard in general to be apart from your spouse. It's harder to live apart from them too.
yeah, I will say I feel like you don't fully understand certain things until like you're in them. Like I feel like getting married I didn't truly understand, like, the longing, like, the Lord has for us until I was married and I had that, like, longing desire, like, to be with my husband. Like,
Mhm.
you're truly, like, to become one, and I don't think I fully understood that until I was married. It's, like, the same that people talk about when you have a kid, like, you fully don't understand that next, like, or this other type of love until you have, like, a child, and So I think that's such a beautiful thing, and I'm so grateful that the Lord has allowed me to experience marriage and understand what the covenant is. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster, and it's crazy to think it's only been like 4 months, but it's felt really long, but it's also felt really short.
Mhm.
Because we got married and then we had 6 days together, before he got deployed till the end of the year, and then we were supposed to spend Christmas together, and he was gonna finally come out here and meet my community, and that was really important to me, and for me to go meet his community in Miami, and then he got extended. So,
It always happens. That's why I'm like, "It's
it
fine."
is something I'm learning right now in the season and still learning, like, you would think that I would've learned it, especially with the distance, but learning to really, like, surrender your plans to the Lord, and yes, it's good to have plans, but, like, the Lord establishes our steps, like, and I've just learned to, like, die to myself. Am I really trying to control a situation? And it goes back to, like, he has good plans for us. He's a good father, and his ways are higher and mightier. So yeah, we had the first 6 days together, and then I didn't see him until this new year where we got the opportunity for him to come out here and me go to Miami. And then we've had little glimpses here and there where he was over on the West Coast, so I got to fly down for, like, a couple days, and even in that, there was, like, 13-hour flight window, and, like, there were so many issues trying to get down there, and it's just, like, you're like, "Why?" Like, sometimes I'm like, "Why is this happening?" And I remember you guys talking in your last podcast, like, not having that victim mindset, and that's so important because, like, the enemy truly does try to attack marriages, and he's trying to create
Mhm,
separation between you and your husband, and it's so important to just be like, maybe the Lord is protecting us from something that we can't see right now, and, like, maybe that's why the flight was so delayed, or maybe that's why you got extended, and then, like, the weather was nice here when you came. Like, there's so many things and there's so many factors we don't see and understand, and
mhm,
it can be so easy to be like, "Why me?" But it's like, I'm not entitled to any of these other blessings that the Lord continues to provide. Um, so it's been it has its ebbs and flows as every other marriage does. Like, I think it allows us to, like, be present here, but sometimes it's hard when we're both in um, different areas. Like, he's in Miami and I'm here, and so I'm doing community life with these people, and he's doing community there, and I
mhm,
remember there was one time where he was going to a group and he was having a hard day, and he had, like, a hug from someone, and he was like, "I just needed that," and sometimes it hurt me to hear that because I wanted to be able to be there and be able to, like, hug and, like, comfort my husband. But, like, looking back, I'm glad he has community because I pray that he has community around him, but it's hard to be apart from your spouse and
mm,
wanna be able to be there in person, but we can't, and the FaceTime is what we have, and text is what we're given, and, um, sometimes it's nice, and sometimes we get on and we're just drained from the day. Like, that was this past week for us. Like, I had a hard week because 'cause I'm going through a syllabus for flying, and he's doing a lot of training, and Um, it just goes back to intentionality and praying. Like, I feel like that's something we've learned is, like, when we're angry or frustrated, we're having a bad day, we just should stop and pray and invite the Lord into it because the enemy's just trying to be like, "Let me just divide you guys right now."
mm.
So,
I think that's so important that you touched on, like, that longing that you feel in your heart since you have gotten married. Do you feel like that's a new feeling since you guys have gotten married? Like, it wasn't there before? Like, obviously, you missed him, but it's a
Mhm.
different sort of longing since you've been married for him?
Yeah, like, his deployment when we were dating, the 108 days felt long, but it felt so much longer with the 50 days being married. And I
Mhm,
think that just comes from, like, us truly like, 2 becoming 1.
mhm,
Like, I don't there's no other way to explain it's, like, no way to explain, like, the goodness of the Lord unless you experience it, and
mhm,
it's the same with marriage and same with other, like, trials and blessings that we get from the Lord. It's just you have to walk through those valleys and those mountains to truly just understand a little bit more of who God is and how good he is and faithful he is despite whether it looks the way we want it to or not.
mhm. Yeah, and I like that you said you kind of touched on, like, that's not how God designed marriage to be together and to be lived as one, so it really hurts your heart when you're not able to do that, and it just reminds me that military life comes with a lot of sacrifices, but hopefully this summer soon you guys will be able to be under the same roof, and I'm excited for you guys to experience marriage together under the same roof. And I feel like you guys are getting to know each other in a really sweet space though. Like I've seen you guys just have a really sweet relationship, and I feel like a lot of that comes from the distance that you guys have had to go through and like the conversations that you have because of it. Because it can be so easy when you are under the same roof to just like go by day to day and not have those deep intentional conversations. But since you guys are apart, you are more intentional with that. And even though it's not how God designed it, he's still working in your marriage and drawing you guys closer to him and closer to each other. And I wanted to ask, like, where do you run to when you do feel like the longing for Seth? Like, how do you place that somewhere else? Or how do you process that, I guess? Because I feel the same thing and I'm just interested to know.
I think it depends on where I'm at with my relationship with the Lord, if I'm being honest. If I've been intentional in my time with the Lord in the morning and starting my day,
Mhm,
or if I get up in the morning and I'm going doing 20 directions and I didn't take the time to like pause. Um, so I guess like one instance was when I found out he got extended in December. I I live by myself right now, so I'm kind of isolated in
mhm,
the sense of that, but I have community around me. Like I have people that walk with me, and we'll go walk and pray. But I remember hearing that news, and I wanted to just like I didn't want to be alone.
mhm,
I wanted to go be with my friend Susan or my friend Anna and just like walk and pray. But they were both busy, and I feel like the Lord intentionally did it so that I had to sit with him because I think my tendency is I don't wanna sit in my emotions and process, and sometimes I don't wanna sit with the Lord with it. I think I think of the Samaritan woman at the well and how she goes, and the Lord knows that who she's living with wasn't her husband, and he knows how many husbands she's had, and she didn't not lie, but she didn't share fully her situation, and I think sometimes, like, with my time with the Lord, sometimes I don't fully share, like, how I'm hurt and I'm frustrated and I'm upset, but in that time, like, I took a walk down to the water and I sat there and I just, like I cried and I was just like, "Lord, I don't understand,
mhm,
and I know that you're good, and I wanna trust that you're good, and you're seeing all these other things that I don't see, but right now it's hard for me to sit here right now and believe that." And I think he honors the vulnerability and the openness of our heart. Like, he's not telling us to, like, go through the trials and be like, "It's all good," because
mhm,
it's not. We live in a fallen world, so I think, um like, I have to be okay with sitting with the Lord and not trying to go to other people and feel
mhm,
the comfort from from other people when the Lord comforts in ways that people cannot. Um,
mhm,
so it looks differently, and I don't always do that. Other times I try to distract myself, whether it's working out or I'm just like, I want to listen to a podcast or a sermon. You know what I mean? And those aren't bad things,
yeah,
but I don't think those are also the best thing we could do. Like, the best thing we can do is go sit before the Lord and lay it at the altar, not be like, "Oh, I'm listening to a sermon, I'm listening to worship music, and that's good." You know what I mean? So I have to catch myself sometimes because I tend to do that,
mhm,
um, because I'm like, "Why would I not go to our Father, our Creator, who knows and sees all the things, and He comforts?" And sometimes I just sit there and I'm just crying, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say or pray.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that because I feel like it's something I needed to hear too. Because right now I feel like I can do the same thing where I'll just run to like a podcast or a sermon or anything else before like bringing up my sorrows to the Lord. And I think it's really beautifully said the way you put it. And it really encouraged me to do that because He wants to hear from us. He wants to be the first person that we run to when we are facing hard things. So it's just a beautiful reminder to bring that to the Lord. And it reminds me, I talked about this, I think, in the last podcast, the verse in James where it talks about considering it joy when you face trials because that produces steadfastness, and just remembering that when you are faced with an extension or missed expectations. But thank you so much for that reminder because I need to run to God more rather than just try to suppress my feelings by like filling my mind with other things so that I don't think about my husband being gone. So thanks for sharing that. And I'm just inspired by your story and your incest relationship. It's been a blessing to walk alongside you guys and see you guys go from friends to dating and engaged and married and being able to walk with you guys in that, and I'm thankful for all of our friendships. I'm just this is just like such looking back, it's like God couldn't have written a better story. I'm like, I just love hearing it and talking about it, and I just love the way He's worked in your hearts and just how much love you guys have for not only each other but the Lord is just beautiful to witness and see it, and it encourages me about all the time because I don't know. You guys just have this fresh, like, perspective and just like love and longing for each other and the Lord. So it's really encouraged us, and we're thankful for your guys' friendship. And I hope we can all be together soon. But I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to share at all before we close out the episode.
Uh-huh. Well, first I want to say thank you. That's so sweet and kind, but that's all the Lord. And truly, like, we're so inspired by you and Matt's relationship. And like, I love listening to the podcast and just like hearing your outlook and what you're going through. And you have a son and you're doing this podcast and the discipline and like truly it's amazing. And I think that's like why we need community so much is to encourage each other. Like we're all going through something, but like to encourage you, like you're not alone and you're doing it so beautifully and you still serve and love the Lord in your marriage and um you're like stewarding it all well. And like you just traveled home with like your son and like all these amazing things and I'm in awe and me and Seth always talk about how grateful we are for you both and in your marriage and just being able to just see it and continue to see it now you guys as parents. It's a blessing and it's so cool and that's one of the most amazing things that the Lord provides is just people that you get to do life with and just see it all through together. So thank you for both of you guys and opening your home to us and letting Seth and I come and helping us with the engagement and marriage and the wedding and being in our wedding. And that was so sweet. And yeah.
No, of course. I'm honored to have been able to be a part of it, and I'm glad I was able to go because I was 34 weeks pregnant. And I was like, this baby got to stay in here. I was worried for nothing. He stayed in there till 41 weeks. But anyways, I think what you're talking about is just a beautiful picture. I think Jonathan Cluda has explained it before of like you're running a marathon and you have the people around you saying like, you're almost there, like keep going. And that's like how I see that we've been able to be a part of each other's lives, like reminding each other that like we're not there yet, like keep going, keep fighting the good fight and pursuing Christ. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and just being willing to share your story, your relationship, and your marriage, and sharing that with us. And I'll be praying for you guys and that you guys will get to be together this summer. And I hope we get to see each other soon. But thank you for sharing. Um, with that, it's Liz and Lily helping you mind your mission.